program is just so special that I really want to just say thank you to all of you for really coming. Just a little background about this program, and I'll tell you how we're going to conduct the proceedings for this evening. This program for TIE is called Legends and Leaders. And I happen to run into a lot of people who look like no one is really new to TIE, so we really don't have to talk about TIE as much. But one thing I just want to remind everybody that one of the things that we do at TIE is that we really, just produce just a lot of quality programs. And the programs have two elements. Okay, on one side is about entrepreneurs, so we'll try to inspire them, inform them, educate them, prepare them, and now also fund them, especially through TIE Angels. So this program is part of the inspirational aspect. About 7 years ago, we started this program in April of 2005. It's called Legends and Leaders. And we said, okay, let's go look among ourselves and just find people who are iconic, who live amongst our midst. And they really don't go about, and you don't see them on television every day. They're not out there in any kind of scandal or controversy and whatever. But they are just doing good work. They're just doing good work, okay? And they truly are role models. So today, this is the 20th of such program that we're conducting tonight with Dick Ramlich. And it's so fitting that this year also is TIE's 20th anniversary. So there's no better way to really celebrate the 20th anniversary, and the celebration has begun through TIECon, and we're going to continue for the rest of the year. And we thought it would be wonderful to bring Dick and just talk about the inspirational aspect. The other side of the TIE program that we conduct are, where the opportunities are for the entrepreneurs. And the current focus for us has been on the social, mobile, cloud, energy, and life sciences. And that's where a lot of activities are happening, a lot of new companies are getting created, and a lot of our members are looking for help and advice. So my request to all of you who are charter members in the audience, please, entrepreneurs are really, they want your advice, they really want your help. So if you have not been able to step forward and take somebody on your wing or mentor them, please send us an email, and we will just match you with somebody. People who are looking for, again, people in the social, mobile, cloud, energy, and life sciences, and those are very, very important stuff that's kind of going on. The other thing is, I just want to just thank our TIE constituency. The core is the TIE charter members, and actually, half of the people in this room are TIE charter members, and you all know you are extremely successful and you're extremely generous. And we really appreciate your generosity and success, and you continue to pay your dues. So that really helps. That helps pay for the rent and pays for the small stuff that we do. So do that. The other thing is our members. Okay, members are they are really the foot soldiers for TIE. And we have nearly 2,000 of you over here and a lot of you in the hall. So please continue to support the programs and continue to invite other people, because we really do good work. Okay, and you see after you hear Dick, and you'll know if you have missed some of the events, you'll see what all wonderful things that we do. So I'm Vish Mishra. I'm the president of TIE Silicon Valley here, and I would just like to acknowledge just a couple of people in the audience. Okay, we have our board, we have all the highly accomplished charter members. There are two people I want to kind of point out before we get Dick over here. One is Carl Mehta. Carl, where are you?
He's left.
Carl left. Oh, he just got an awesome assignment. He has been appointed as the White House Innovation Fellow. He has a regular day job at Visa. He was a entrepreneur. He's a TIE charter member. He's founded a company called PlaySpan, had a huge exit, sold to Visa. For the next 6 months, he's going to be commuting to DC every week to go and help our government figure out how can they innovate in the areas of technology, how can they deal with this massive amount of government data and make it usable and not rely on WikiLeaks to give the government data out to people, like that, okay? So that's one thing. The other thing also is that because the US government, our government, we spend a lot of money doling out a lot of aids and the funds, and they're trying to figure out how can they monitor and track so there's a better transparency and better utilization of those dollars. So Carl is one among 700 people who were interviewed, and they picked 18 people. And Carl is the only Indo-American, he's the only TIE charter member, who is really, so we're exceptionally honored to have Carl represent us.
How long is that assignment?
he did it just for 6 months. Yeah, but now, who knows? Okay, he may decide to run for Senate. I have no idea, after he gets his experience, okay? The other gentleman I want to recognize, he's our newly minted Thai charter member, and that's Alan Miner. Alan, would you please stand up? So Alan Miner, he is the guy who put Oracle on the map in Japan. He took Oracle to Japan, and he functioned as the CEO of Oracle Japan. Then he got with Salesforce.com, and he established them. And he now runs Sunbridge. Is a major organization. And just last week, Alan came on board, and he has some great ideas for us to do things with Japan and the like. So I just wanted to recognize Alan. So thank you. Welcome on board. Okay, really appreciate your Okay. Now, Dick, of course everybody knows Dick, but I think we'll be doing a disservice if we just don't embarrass him a little bit with the introduction that he really deserves. I mean, he is truly a legend in the Valley. Has been in business for, he told me, 50 years. No? 40 years. Wait a minute, I did the math. So you're not counting the 9 years of Kroger business and the thing that you worked for, your dad's business, all that stuff, huh? Anyway, 40. I said business. I did not say VC. Yeah. See, I was just trying to discount the number. Actually, he's Dick. Oh, I see. There you go. Yeah. So anyway, who does not know NEA? I mean, NEA, they, even including the current funds, the $14 billion of committed capital, they returned $10 billion to their LPs already, and I think they're going to return a lot more, and they keep making news day after day. But the other important thing is that, Dick being a co-founder, but he decided some time ago that he really had to turn the reins over to his other partner. And so Peter Beres, however, Dick continued to serve as the chairman of the management committee for NEA, and which itself is a huge stuff. The 20 years that he was a general partner, they were among the top quartile of returns for the LPs. And that's better than that. There you go. See. Yeah, I keep discounting your accomplishments, Dick. Yeah, so. But with the VC career, 1969, Arthur Rock and Company, that's where Dick started. And then after 9 years as general management of, at the Kroger and Company, which was basically in the investment management business, then he also joined Gardner and Preston, Moss Company in Boston. So those of you from Boston, you probably may know the company and Dick. 1997, Dick became a early investor in Apple with his own account. So 77, there you go, see? Then soon after he put his own money in Apple, he decided to co-found NEA. So that was in 78. And the success in many of people in this hall, the room actually, Suhas is over there. Suhas was funded by Dick. Vindham was, his company got funded. Sam Mathan was sent, his company got funded. We have way too many people. K2 sitting over there. K2's company got funded. K2 now is general partner with Dick. So it's just amazing. And when you look at just, these numbers kind of really sound like mind-boggling. 24 billion, exit for Ascend. Sam, you were there, okay? And I know you probably took a fraction of it, right? There. Then you have this company called Immunex that got acquired by Amgen for $29 billion. So these are just absolutely incomprehensible numbers. Micromedia, $3.5 billion. Financial Engines, that went public in 2000, and Juniper, the angioplasty company called Advanced Cardiovascular Systems. Angioplasty. Who doesn't know angioplasty? Dick had a lot to do with that. That got acquired by Eli Lilly. Forethought, which became AllPoint, that got sold to Microsoft. I mean, list just goes on and on. Okay, and because of all his successes, naturally Dick, got honored by a lot of people. Lifetime Achievement Awards 4 times. I thought the people have only one lifetime. So how can you get 4 lifetime awards? But that's just awesome. National Venture Capital Association was one of them, where he served as chairman and the president. And Dick told me the story. He had to go and lobby, at the White House and the Congress, and he really thought that at least Bill Clinton appeared to be a super capitalist when you went to saw him about pitching venture capital. Deloitte had the Fast 50 program, Red Herring Magazine, Innovator Capitalist Award from the VC Task Force. Just list goes on and on. Okay, and then the other thing is that, of course, he's well schooled. He actually is a history major. So, but I think maybe to make sure that the history major did not appear like a handicap, so Dick went to Harvard and got his MBA. So, but Dick, he had told me, and we just shared earlier, he is the only one of the 2 venture capitalists in the world who really have history major, and they are successful venture capitalists. And his other fellow is Paul Maurice of Sequoia. So that's a huge thing. Mike Maurice, Paul Maurice. Well, I'm not going to misspell your wife's name, okay? So, but just like, behind every successful man, there is a saying goes, there is a woman. And Dick is totally blessed to have his soulmate, Pamela, who has been with him at every turn, and she deserves as much credit as Dick does. That, and they both got a Lifetime Achievement Award, Pamela and Dick together, from the San Francisco Art Institute in 2006. One of the things about Dick is that he's a noted collector of media arts, and he has founded what they call the New Art Trust to foster best practices in the field since 1997. Yeah, so this is great. 4 grown children and 6 grandchildren. And Dick loves to hike, travel, plays tennis, swims every day. And he also lived for 1 whole year in Shanghai, China, where he set up NEA's China office. So, and to this day, Dick shows up for work at 7:30 in the morning, and he's there until 5, 6 every day, 7 days a week, 5 days a week for sure, and the other 2 days with all his interesting hobbies and pursuit. So, I'd like you all of you to please welcome, Dick Kramlich, our legend and leader, among our midst. So, Dick, would you please come up to the stage and.
Great introduction. I don't know if I can live up to that. But, I noticed that this is the 20th event. I was actually hoping that you wouldn't ask me until it was 20, because I wanted to be 20 on 20. And I love symmetry in numbers. And, but that was where is Carly? That was the person you mentioned. Carly, is that right? Carl, is he here? He left, because I was going to ask him what he wanted to accomplish over the next 6 months. That's going to be, that's kind of like falling when you're on a water skiing, and you fall just as the trough gets very intense. Where do you go after you fall when you're water skiing? Anyway, that's a difficult position to be in. What I thought might be, first of all, I think that all of us are pretty lucky people because we live here. And this is the best place in the world to live. I mean, there isn't any doubt about it in my mind. And I moved here from Boston. We talked about that. I moved here in 1969. I'm from Wisconsin originally. And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I sort of believe in the system. I definitely believe in the system. And I think this is a, you know, they call America the great experiment. And I hope it continues to be the great experiment, because it's the only place in the world where there really are very few indigenous people, and we have such a great land, and it's still so relatively sparsely populated. It gives all of us, if we have native intelligence and have somebody behind us who gives us a push, and we go to school and we learn, and we can apply it in a constructive way. I mean, there's nothing like it. I know just recently I've had an occasion to talk with several people who really do see everything. One was the lady named Gillian Tett. She's with the Financial Times, and she'd been going around the entire world, going to all the centers of entrepreneurship and learning. And she said, you know, every place else she goes, she gets depressed. This is the only place in the world, Northern California, where she can go and see people energized and making constructive, you know, careers out of their lives. And then I'm sure you know the new CEO of Citibank. And he told me, he said, you know, this is the most amazing place. He said, every place he goes, he gets depressed. Here is the only place that isn't that way. And that is true. I mean, we are so darn lucky. And so we get caught up in these waves of innovation, usually, and there's no question about it, the pendulum swings too far, excesses occur, we have to go back to zero, and then we go back again. But I just noticed today that actually Northern California has had the highest percentage increase in real estate values of any place in the United States. Saratoga, #1. Saratoga, #1. Who lives in Saratoga? I mean, you guys are really lucky. So, you know, it's quite amazing. There was like a 300% increase in the top end of the market in Saratoga. It's incredible. Anyway, I thought what would be, first of all, I'll tell you a little story, and then what I really like to do is get into give and take on stories, because there's so many of them that are important, and they're going to illustrate something I want to make sort of a theme. Vish asked me to sit down and give some principles to him, so I rattled off 6 of them, and I'm going to add 3 more to that. And then we're going to use that as kind of a basis for talking about things. But I thought I'd tell you this one story. And when I was going to Harvard Business School, I was in my 2nd year, and I was walking across the campus one day, and one of the deans nailed me, and he said, now Dick, I know you don't agree with a lot of the things that are going on here. This was, believe me, a long time ago. And I said, well, that's true. He said, by the way, the things I didn't agree with was they didn't have any courses in entrepreneurism, and they didn't use any technology to make their case on anything or improve their life or anything, I mean, other than just the rudimentary things. They didn't use computers, and it was just, the whole thing was just, I thought, behind the 8 ball. And it was really due to the fact the deans were kind of old world deans. And so I said, yes, that's right, sir. And he said, our 2nd best graduate since World War II has just started a company in Boise, Idaho, and if I called him and said, would you please, and asked him to fly you out there, would you go out there? And I said, sure. The year before, a couple of us, I was in the class of 60, and the class of 59, the class of 60, we were pretty kind of unhappy with the way that people were recruited to companies that were graduating, people who were graduating from Harvard at that time. And the reason that we were unhappy about it is because they focused only on Wall Street, on big companies and big banks, and that was it. And so we decided we divided up the entire class into, we had 7 sections, 7 regional sections, and we said anybody who's interested in an outreach program where we would go out to that region of the country, and the person who represented that section of the country in that class in Harvard would carry with them the resumes of all the people who wanted to go to that area, and tell them, look, you don't think you can compete for these people. you don't think it's worth the money that you'd have to spend going up and trying to recruit, because you're up against P&G and U.S. Steel and Goldman Sachs and all the other companies that were then recruiting. He said, you're wrong, because almost a half of the people in the school would like to work for a small company or a medium-sized company, and particularly in your region of the country. Let's say it was in the southeast, and let's say it was Atlanta. So we'd have all the people who were interested in going to work for a medium or small company in Atlanta or in that region, get together. Maybe he had 40 resumes with him. He'd go down to Atlanta, and the local Harvard Business School club would call on him, and then he'd say, look, you guys are misinformed, because I have 40 people here who will take a lower paying job that has more direct influence on the outcome of the company. They want to be involved in small entrepreneurial activities in this part of the country. And so we started that program, and he was right. Within 2 years, by the way, we had over half the school graduates were involved in that program. It was an outreach program when you really think about it. So anyway, I got tasked to go to the Northeast, which is where I really wanted to live anyway. And so I sort of felt my dad had sold his company, and I really didn't want to work for a family company, and so that was fine with me. My father called me, he said, look, if you're really interested in this, I'll make room for you. And I said, Dad, just forget it. You improve your handicap. And so he did that. So anyway, so I went out and I was with this, I stayed at the company for 2 days. And I interviewed everybody in the company. It wasn't really a startup, it was a merger of two companies. The Payette Lumber Company and the Boise Lumber Company became Boise Cascade. Good company. And his president, his name was Bob Hansberger. So I went around, interviewed everybody, talked to everybody in the company. And at the end of the second day, he called me into his office and he said, well, what do you think about this? And I said, well, Mr. Hansberger, I'm 25 years old. What do I know about the price of tea in China? Not much. But if you want my impression, I'll tell you what my impression is. And I told him, I said, first of all, I think you have a good company here. I think it's going to be a big success. And I sort of like the field you've chosen, and it has a lot of different aspects to it. But I said, I think you're making one huge mistake. And he said, what's that? I said, well, all you want to do is hire Harvard Business School guys. And I think that is not a good idea. And he said, well, why is that? I said, because, whether you believe in this or whether you agree in it or not, agree with me or not, the mission at HBS is, there's the hill, take the hill, and kill everybody else on the way up. Super competitive. And I said, that's not the way I operate. But take it for what it is. He said, are you telling me that that if I offer you a job, you're not going to take the job here? And I said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think you ought to hire people from a broad walk of life. Some people who haven't gone to school, some people who went to Stanford or went to, Chicago or Northwestern or Duke or any place else, as well as Harvard. But I think it's really a mistake to have everybody too homogeneous. And so anyway, he did offer me the job, but on the way back home, I got a call. A friend of my dad's tracked me down at my grandparents' house in Colorado. And he said he had been Howard Hughes' first right-hand man. And he was at that point the executive VP of Kroger, in charge of finance. And he was a lawyer and an accountant, didn't practice either law or accountancy. He said, would you stop by in Cincinnati on your way back to Boston? I said, sure. He said, look, we're going to turn this company upside down. It's operating on all old methods. We're going to have to computerize the company. We're going to change all our practices. The guy who was the treasurer was a bakery truck driver. And everything had to be professionalized. He said, I need a really good right-hand man to lead this. We're going to make some diversification moves, and et cetera, et cetera. So I thought, that sounds to me like a lot more exciting than all the other jobs which involve going to training programs and that sort of thing. So I did that, and it was in the course of doing that I, first of all, learned a lot about how companies operate, how to analyze it. I was manager of financial planning. We were at that time a $20 billion company. And today it's the largest company in the field, and we put in the foundation for the systems and controls that we have in place now. And I developed a lot of loyalty to the people. They were great, but I decided I didn't want to be a corporate guy. It's just one of those things that doesn't quite meet to my, tempo. So anyway, I got back to Boston and I ran into the dean again. He said, "What did you think?" I said, "It was a great company." I said, "By the way, if he was your second best graduate since World War II, who was the best graduate?" He said, "Bob McNamara." I said, "Okay, I get it." That was the problem. They were just thinking in the box all the time. I won't go on with that, but there's another follow-on to that kind of a story. But no, going back to what Vish said, he said, give me these six axioms that I could use to describe what I think is a key part of the way a company should think of itself and how to run and how to make things happen. And I'll use these as, I'll just read through them quickly, and then we'll go back and deal with the ones that you think you want to know more about. I said, nothing happens automatically. If you don't work intensely with each company, good things won't happen. When in doubt, leave it out. Listen to the market. It will always tell you what to do. Try to play home games, not away games. Only work with people you like and respect. Life is too short otherwise. A duty of a partner is to save you from yourself. Oftentimes a company is only one person away from being a great company. And goal alignment. And goal alignment in two different ways. Goal alignment from the standpoint of you as a VC with your LP. And that's one thing we really have done well. And the second thing is with your team of people. If you have I'm a great believer in this, if you have a team of people who are dedicated to a singular goal and you're focused on it, and you have goal alignment and the rewards that come from a successful job, there's almost nothing that can stop you. It's bigger than any one of us. It's a very major thing to have a team of people who are talented, who all believe in the same outcome and are working feverishly to get there, and it doesn't make any difference how many hours a day you work. And it just makes the difference. I always say, it makes a difference where your head is, not where your feet are. So anyway, those are the kind of the principles that I would say are kind of important. And let me just amplify on a few of them. I find it great to be a history major, by the way, because I don't pretend to know anything. And when I get into a company, and I have purposely, as Vish said, I've gone to everything from cardiac companies to, in fact, actually, when I was back in the early days, when we were the first partnership that started with offices on both coasts. And 3 days after I had shaken hands with my partners, I was a pretty good friend of Tom Perkins, and still am. And Tom called me and he asked me out to lunch. He said, Dick, you and Arthur have had a great run, and now you guys you're going your own way, and why don't you become a partner of Kleiner Perkins? Because I'd helped him raise his first fund. And I said, well, the problem, Tom, is that I've already shaken hands on this. He said, do you have anything in writing? I said, no. I said, but, I really, my word is my bond. I'm going to do this, and that's going to be it. And he said, God, well, in other words, you're going to move to the East Coast. I said, no, I'm going to stay here. And he said, well, how are you going to make decisions? I said, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, I said, look, Tom. And he called Eugene Kleiner over, and we had a nice lunch together. I said, look, Tom, let's just stay friends and do deals together from time to time. That's a much better way. And so we were, just by happenstance, the first partnership. It started with offices on both coasts. My wife had said to me, why don't you work with somebody you really like for a change? I said, what a great idea. I said, well, why is something so obvious not something that I would have thought about in the first place? But anyway, so we started with and that's when my partner Chuck Newhall said, let's build a partnership that's going to last 100 years. And I kind of thought, somebody throws out a challenge. I mean, I'm a sucker for a challenge. I'll step into it every day of the week. So we started out with how do we organize somebody who's on two coasts to make decisions sometimes you have to make in 24 hours. You know, with all the limitations we had. So we incorporated every bit of technology that we could at the outset. And we have a reporting system today that is marginally different from what it was 35 years ago. And it's just amazing. If you do the right things from the beginning, it's a lot easier to keep doing the right things and then improve them along the way, rather than have to throw something out and start all over again. We used the word pivot a little earlier. Pivot is a nice way of saying it was a mistake. Anyway, so I guess, you know, so principle of working with people you care about and you like and you share the same goals and you are goal aligned is really a big, big deal. And it works almost in every walk of life that I can think of. The market, you know, if your markets change dramatically, and this is sometimes when you do a rightful pivot. And we were talking about Ascend Communications, which was a $24 billion exit. And we started with, and Sam knows this, we started with a product that was, why don't you just, how would you describe that product, Sam? That's what it was. A big switch that was never going to work. And we already had a company that was doing it on the East Coast. It wound up being an also-ran company with the entire market to themselves. And so there was a skunk works going on in the company at the same time. In fact, this actually is a pretty good story because it carries with it a lot of different examples of things. But the product that ultimately led to the company's success was an access product at a time that the internet was just being born. And so it was perfect. And this gets back to why I'm glad I was a history major. Because every place I go, I consider myself in kindergarten, and I have to learn the technology from the ground up, and it takes a long time to do that. That's why you have to really understand the consequences of the technology. You don't have to be a technologist, but it's really important to understand the consequences of it and know enough about it so that you can tell when you're vulnerable and when you're not vulnerable, when you really have something important. And so anyway, in that case, we had a guy who was the president. I'm a very candid person, so I'll just tell you the way I see it. So we had a fellow who was the president named Rob Ryan. He was very bright fellow. He had been with DEC, and then he'd been with Intel. He's a very smart guy. He had a habit of never really looking at you. I mean, you look at him and look like that. And I could never quite figure out what it was. It cost him to look like that. Anyway, he did. And but we had a really good team of people. Very good woman named Jeanette Simons, who was the head of technology, very smart. We had a very good head of operations, Maury Etchebat. And we had quite a few other people who were very talented at the very beginning. So they started on this access product after my first board meeting was where they decided to can the product that we made the investment on. And I just took the business plan and threw it over my head. The long and short of it is that we were very successful right out of the chute with that new product. And Rob had a lot of good things about him. Very smart, as I said, but he was a terrible communicator. And so there was a lot of restiveness among the management. And so we had built up this company to a point where we were going to do a public offering. And Rob had a bad back in addition to all the other problems. And his wife had been the attorney for the company at the very beginning. So there were a lot of things that weren't really professional about it. So we had engaged the underwriters. All the underwriters were over at the Bank of America building, drafting the S1. And we had a board meeting just among the directors. And one of the directors said, you know, Rob is going in for back surgery right on the heels of this public offering. And furthermore, there are a lot of people in the company who have a real problem with Rob as the CEO. And we did a survey and found out that was true. And so we think that maybe the best thing to do is to have Maury Etchabot move up from being the head of operations to being the CEO, and for Rob to become chairman. So everybody, we talked about it for some time, and we all agreed that that was the right outcome for the company. Another lesson, always only think in terms of what's in the interests of the company. That includes PC companies as well. And so anyway, they said, well, who is located where on this phone discussion we had? And anyway, I was in the building next to the Bank of America building. They said, Dick, why don't you go over and tell Rob that he's no longer the CEO? I said, what an assignment. And so I went across the street and I went up to the 40th floor, and he was in there with the lawyers and the accountants, and everybody was in a big room, and there were probably 50 people in there, and I said, hey Rob, can I see you for a minute? And so he came out of the building. This is pretty poignant. And I said, Rob, we've just had a director's meeting with you, all the outside directors, and you're going to go have back surgery right after the underwriting, is that right? And he said, yes, it is, right. And I said, you know, we can't have that. You can't go on a road show, have a public offering, and then be gone for 3 weeks or something like that. It just is not going to sit well. And furthermore, there's a lot of controversy about, you know, whether it might be somebody else to be more effective as a CEO than you. And I said, but you know, you built a hell of a company, and here we are on the threshold of a public offering. And so I have the thankless job of asking you to move up to chairman. And he said, you know, Dick, why is it should be the best day of my life? I just feel as though I've been kicked in the teeth. I said, Rob, you're right. That is the way it is. But take it like a man, because it's going to happen. And don't worry, we'll treat you fairly every step of the way. And so that's what happened. And Maury became the CEO. The company went on and built one thing after another. And 9 years later, we got acquired for $24 billion. And it's the only viable part of Lucent today, which isn't very viable. And anyhow, the point of it is, it was really a traumatic moment. But I think if you keep in mind what was good for the company, it was good, because he came back and actually it wasn't effective. He just was a poor communicator. He's a very smart guy, and he's done a lot of good in the world. Since then, he has a program that he puts entrepreneurs through up in Montana. He has a ranch up there, and so on and so on. But goal alignment is first, last, and always. And that also gets to the point of sometimes you're only one person away from a great company. Oftentimes, as Kid 2 knows, we go through an analysis of a company, and sometimes we're in that company, sometimes we're looking at the company. But if we're already in it and we know what the shortcomings are, you know that there are great bones in that company, and what you need is really an A-plus person to be the leader. Sometimes that person comes from within, sometimes it comes from without. I'm going through one of those right now, and in this case, somebody came in from outside, transformed the company, and it went from being a disaster to being a high prospect. But it happens a lot, and we've seen that. Haven't we seen that a lot, Katoon? And it's most often the most frustrating single thing about a startup company, where you have very good people, many of whom are, you know, crossing all the T's and dotting the I's, and yet you just can't quite get the ignition in place. And so it's well worth doing that. I think this duty of a partner to protect oneself, this is an easy trap in our business to fall into, where you actually lose perspective on where you are in a company, and you're making either at the front end of a decision or in the innards of a decision. You know, you just can't extract yourself to the point where you can be dispassionate about what is right for the company at one stage of the game. Should we invest more money, or shouldn't we invest more money? You know, should we change, should we pivot or not pivot? Should we invest in a brand new product line? I mean, there are so many different decisions that go on, and oftentimes it takes a team, it takes a partnership in order to get them to the right decision. It's not saying no, it's saying maybe this, maybe that, but it's keeping your optionality open is a big deal. So there are a lot of other things. The market issue is a good thing. That again will tell you if you've gotten yourself totally informed about a company, if you know the people, you know the product, you know the market, and and you get to this place where you have to listen to the market. It'll tell you nuanced where to go. That's what happened in the case of Ascend. In Juniper, same thing happened. We had Suhas. You remember a lot of things that happened when we were working together. Anyway, I could go on other things, but I'd like to open it up on a dialogue and have you ask me questions. And yes.
We hear a lot about how successful people learn more from their failures on occasion than their successes. And you have a spectacular string of successes we just heard about. What are the top 1 or 2 or 3 failures you're willing to talk about that taught you something?
I have a lot of experience on both sides of that ledger. I would say one of the, now Raj has left, but Ketu used to be at SGI. I think SGI is a good example of a great company that fell off the map. And, why did that happen? It happened because of leadership. And it also happened because I think there were really significant shifts in the market that happened underneath it. And it happened about the same time that the internet really changed the world. There were a lot of things that happened that were external to the company and then some that were internal to the company. And Ketu and I have never had a beer and talked about this too much, but I feel pretty strongly about those kind of things. And I'll never forget one day that was really significant. It was, in fact, it may have prolonged the whole process, but this was probably in about 1996 or so, or 1997. One day we got a call, and it came from John Doerr, and John said, would you guys be willing to merge with Sun with Ed McCracken running both companies? And I wonder what would have happened if that had happened. It was interesting. Another thing I'm trying to think of other really, well, okay, I'll give one other example. One time we were involved in a company that was in MRI imaging and magnetic resonance. And this is a big company business. There are a half dozen big companies in this business, almost no small companies. And the invention had been a new magnet that was a C magnet. So it didn't have a closed magnet. A lot of people get spooked by going inside a magnet and they get claustrophobia. So anyway, this fellow, who was a brilliant doctor and also a technical guy from MIT, he had invented the C magnet, and we had 3 people involved in this company. And so it was, we had I'll not prolong this, but I was we had a lot of money for the time involved in it. I was the 4th person because it looked as though they had sold over 70 of these C magnets at $1.5 million each. And so it was pretty good. They were doing pretty well, all things considered. But the management had gotten them too far ahead of their skis, and they had spent too much money. They had a $5 million loan with a fellow who was in the venture lending business here, and he was a charlatan actually. But what had happened is that so we needed some money, and we didn't think we were far enough along to really venture finance it, because our numbers weren't satisfactory. So I'd just gotten into taking over this situation, and we had a service operation that was generating around $20 million a year in service revenues. That was really pretty good, and we were introducing this new top-of-the-line best magnet. It was a fraction of the cost of the big companies, magnets. And so I thought it was a good idea to go to General Electric and see if they would acquire our service operation. So we could sell that, we'd have enough money to take it all the way as a manufacturing organization. And so the fellow who had lent us the $5 million, I told him exactly what we were doing. I went out to Milwaukee and went to see General Electric, and at the end of a full day of negotiating, I had a deal for them to buy our service operation. And I told this guy that I would come back. I'd call him on Friday night when I was leaving Milwaukee. So I called him in California. I said, Charlie, don't worry, you're going to get your money in 7 days. Next Friday, you'll have your money, and don't worry about it. On Monday, they filed a foreclosure agreement and put us into bankruptcy. And, you know, thanks a lot, right? And so I learned a lot in that. I learned a lot. They, you know who to trust when you believe you can't trust a guy. Follow your instincts. You know, when in doubt, leave it out. You know, don't put yourself in that kind of vulnerable position to begin with. Most importantly, if something is in, this is about home games and away games, be sure you play a home game. Play in a place that you know you can win. You have a lot of, a lot of things that indicate you have a support system that will help you persevere or win, as opposed to being someplace else where somebody else has a home game. So those are some lessons I would learn. That was a company called Resonex. Okay. Yes, Fish.
I think why don't you just sit you in the chair.
Okay.
And you are there.
Sure.
And the mic, and I think we can make sure that we can go on for another half an hour.
Okay.
With you, because we started a little bit late, so can we just... So, this will take about maybe 15 or so questions. You do until about 49. And we have mics, so wait till your mic comes, and if you could just clarify yourself, that would be great. So at least we have kind of perspective to the questionnaires.
Yeah.
So Paul Singh has a mic, so Paul, will you get ready?
This is Paul Singh. First of all, thanks a lot for the talk and coming here. I was kind of remembering the time when I worked in the product management at Ascent.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of saw the transition between Rob Ryan to, Maury Ijibit. The inside scoop from the hallway was that this company wasn't going to go anywhere because of the dynamics that existed. There were very, very smart people, but all individually smart, not as smart as a team. So how did you, or what conversation in the boardroom led to the decision to change the management? Were you even aware of it?
Is this on now? No. It's on. So, it's not on.
It's coming. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So when were you at Ascend?
I don't remember the year exactly.
Right.
When Rob Ryan and Maury Ijibit were both there and Maury took over.
Yeah, so you were there. You were there. It was your product.
Yeah, pipeline is what I did. I did all the rest.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Did I tell the story pretty accurately?
Yeah. What happened? Yes, very accurate.
Yeah, okay. So we had a lot of people who would come to us and tell us what was really going on. And we always, were you there when his wife was the lawyer for the company?
I think so.
She was sort of paranoid, and she would tell Rob all these things that people were saying about him, and all. I mean, she was a disruptive person, really, in many ways, smart. But we had a lot of ways of figuring out what was going on, and so I think we were operating on a pretty informed basis. One thing that we didn't know about was we didn't know if Maury was good with numbers or not. So we hired Bob Dahl as the CFO. He did a great job. And I was watching this particularly closely. And so Maury had been running, we didn't have a CFO for quite a long time until Bob came in. So I was really interested to see if the transition told us something about whether Maury had been good running the numbers part-time. As we went from no CFO to one of the best CFOs, there wasn't one change in the numbers. We said, you know, Maury really does know numbers. He is very good at it. So I think that, and I think Maury was a good leader of the company, whereas Bob, as I said, really lacked leadership skills. And so I think I think the answer is, how did we know it? We knew it because we had our ear to the ground. And that's what I'm talking about, is when you really work closely with a company, you have to make it your business to get the picture. And Vish earlier had said that he thought I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I'm not too bad in that regard. And so I think that I just make my business knowing what's going on. I can tell you one time I was with a company when Arthur and I were partners, and this company went on to be very successful, and it was in chaos. And so one day we had an operation in Southern California, operation in Northern California, and